Hey guys, Lovely Muse here, and I just felt like sharing a bunch of random K-pop opinions that I had. Anyways, let us get straight into the video. There is nothing wrong with shipping your favorite idols together as friends, but there is something absolutely wrong and disgusting when you ship them romantically and sexually, especially to the point that you analyze every move and interaction that they have. Also, it becomes extremely wrong when you start pushing and forcing your ships and fantasies and scenarios of them into the real world, through analysis videos and whatnot. Also, I don't see this being talked about often, but a lot of the time, one of the reasons why K-pop fans heavily ship two people together, especially same-sex idols, is because for one, K-pop as a whole fetishizes gay people, and gay men especially. And secondly, more often than not, they are using that ship to live out their fantasies. In other words, some fans who heavily ship idols do so because they more often than not, are trying to live vicariously through their ships. Either because they have a crush on one of the idols within their ships, or because they idolize the relationship within that ship for themselves. Your idols are fucking around whether you like it or not, and this is despite them telling you on camera that they are single. You do know that you don't have to be in a relationship to sleep around. Also, I have this weird theory that some idols purposefully get into relationships just so they can do the deed without having to bear the consequence of possibly being slut-shamed. Because, I find it really odd that a lot of the idols who have either been publicly outed by Dispatch to be dating, or they themselves made their relationship public, ended up breaking up 1 to 2 years later, for supposedly having a busy schedule. Like they really want us to believe they didn't know they would have a busy schedule beforehand, especially those idols who are a part of popular and well-known K-pop groups. Like, not to point fingers, but I am looking at you Kang Daniel, and twice as Jiho, and at you Jennie and EXO Kai. Like literally back around 2018 and 2019 it was announced by Dispatch that Jennie and Kai were dating, then this year Dispatch announced G-Dragon and Jennie are supposedly dating, and have been for a year. I am not saying that people can't move on from one person to another in a short amount of time. But like. Plus, Kim Hee-chul, the man known to have dated a lot of people, idols included. There is no way he didn't tap that. That's all I am going to say. Moving on. No. I do not care what others say, and I know the majority will disagree and say otherwise, but a fandom most certainly does reflect the group, or at the very least, a fandom's actions can definitely affect a group and their image. A prime example would be ENHYPEN. As a black K-pop fan, the shit that went down on Weverse was absolutely horrendous. And the fact that both the company and the group said absolutely nothing about it, or even acknowledged it, definitely left a sour taste in my mouth. I was actually planning on becoming a fan of the group and decided to look more into them, and that was when I came across the controversy. And that just fully turned me off from the fandom and the group. Like at that point, I was like nope, throw the whole fandom, the whole group, and the whole company away. Like the anti-blackness in K-pop is very real, very toxic, and borderline harmful. As it was alleged that a black engine had offed themselves because of the amount of racism and threats they received from other engines. And then people wonder why black K-pop fans continuously complain and are overprotective. So yes, a fandom can definitely prevent you from liking a group. Most K-pop idols aren't getting older, but younger. Meaning companies are now getting real comfortable debuting younger idols, even a whole group filled with minors. Though younger idols debuting aren't a new thing, as both SM and JYP are notorious for this. Some examples being BoA, Taemin, Suzy, and like half of Girls' Generations. However, it was still pretty rare, and with a Korean law prohibiting minors from being broadcasted after 10 p.m., it made it quite difficult for companies to be debuting minors. Although there were some who found loopholes or just went against the law completely. However, despite this, there has definitely been a surge in K-pop idols who are minors, debuting. And I feel like this is also probably why people think we have hit 4th gen already. This brings me to my next opinion. Why in the hell do you guys think we have hit the 4th generation already? Didn't the 3rd generation literally start in 2012? You cannot tell me that the 3rd generation only lasted 5 to 6 years. It seems like a very good majority of K-pop fans really and truly believes that the 4th generation of idols and K-pop in general began and debuted in 2018. Like if we technically do the math, the K-pop we know today started with Seo Taiji and Boys back in 1992, which then ultimately began the first generation of K-pop idols and groups. Then around 2001 or 2002 came the second generation being led by idols and idol groups such as BOA and TVXQ. And then 2012 came along with the debut of EXO. And then bam! All of a sudden fourth generation began in 2018. Like, come on guys. I know you all want your favorite fourth generation groups, if we can even call them that, to be at the top and be number one. But like, can you all be a little patient? If we do the math, then fourth generation doesn't really begin until next year or the year after. Plus, even though I feel there is a multitude of reasons why people were so quick to begin the fourth generation, however, I will only point out the two main reasons. Which is the age range in which a lot of the new idols and idols groups are debuting now, which are in the younger spectrum. And the second being the rise in popularity that K-pop had gained vicariously through the rise of BTS's popularity in 2018. In other words, 2018 not only sparked the growth in popularity for BTS, but also for K-pop as a whole. Which in turn led to companies debuting more K-pop groups in order to accommodate the new surge of K-pop fans, but also the surge in young K-pop fans. Which ultimately meant debuting younger groups, and thus we have the start of the fourth generation. Also, did anyone notice how the following years such as 1992, the 2000s, and 2012, are the years in which we saw a spike in popularity for K-pop, which now includes 2018. Plus, do you notice how K-pop reactions channels also started appearing during and after 2018? Like, I can bet you that all the popular K-pop reaction channels, except for a good handful, that react to K-pop, their first K-pop reaction video is of BTS. Most idol rappers are not real rappers, and most likely auditioned to be a vocalist. But due to there not being any vocal positions left, they were given the rapper position, for example, Jackson of GOT7. Or, the company felt that their voice would better suit rapping rather than singing, despite them probably being decent singers, an example being Stray Kids' Felix. I mean, it is no coincidence that most of the idol rappers just so happen to be pretty decent or good at singing as well, a good example being EXO Chanyeol. However, I will say that there are a good handful of idols who I myself do consider to be actual rappers. Like in other words, rappers who just so happen to be idols. Such as BTS Suga and RM, Monsta X Honey and IM, Winners Minho, and iKON's Bobby, as well as former iKON member Hanbin. However, I will acknowledge that there are some idol rappers who have proven to be very skillful and should be acknowledged as good rappers. Such as 17's Vernon, Astro's Jinjin, NCT Mark and Taeyong, Stray Kids Changbin and Han, The Boys Sunwoo, 80's Hongjung, and Mingi, Treasure's Haruto and Hunsuk, CIXPX, and TO1 Chan, JU, and Chihoon. By the way, I only named the idol rappers who are actually active. So I don't want to see in the comment section names of idols whose groups are either disbanded or inactive, or they themselves are inactive. Cause, trust me, the list would be longer if I included them. A good portion of K-pop groups do not like their fans or at the very least get annoyed with them. While I am at it, I am also going to say that a good portion of idols do not care about line distribution as much as their fans do. And some are simply only idols because of the attention that comes with it, whether good or bad. Also, filler idols, or should I say, filler members exist. Whether K-pop fans want to admit it or not, there are idols who do not have a talent for singing, dancing, or even variety and are simply part of the group because of their visuals. For the company, visuals are a good enough reason for them to debut an idol, because their visuals can still be marketable. I am not going to name any idols that I believe fit this, cause I am not trying to spread any unnecessary hate towards them, and even towards myself. But just know that they exist. Blackpink started out as idols, but are now being marketed as influencers. And I feel like the members are very much happy with that. I mean, the only member that I genuinely believe wants to be a singer, maybe not a K-pop idol singer, but a singer, is Rosé. Because it definitely seems like Lisa wants to pursue a career that properly showcases her dancing abilities, and clearly a career as a K-pop idol isn't providing that. This is pretty evident through her YouTube channel where she posts a lot of her performance dance videos. Jennie to me always came off as someone who seemed interested in being a musician at first, but not necessarily an idol, and simply saw that being an idol would be an easier way in reaching that. But recently, I just feel like she is very much enjoying the influencer lifestyle. Just posting vlogs on her YouTube, and posting modeling photoshoots on her Instagram, and just simply living her best life. Whereas Jisoo, from the very start, always came off as someone who wanted to be an actress. Why YG pushed her to be an idol, I do not know. Even when Blackpink first debuted, I always saw Jisoo going the acting route, and to me, she comes off as like the GOT7 Jinyoung of Blackpink. Where despite them being decent singers, and being part of an idol group, even enjoying it at times, acting, however, was always their number one pursuit. Sooner or later, Blackpink will either disband, or become a group where they still put out songs every once in a blue moon, but will still heavily focus on their individual interests and careers. I mean, technically speaking, they are already doing that, but I feel like it will be more prevalent moving forward. All I know is that currently, I feel as though Blackpink probably see themselves as K-pop idol as a secondary thing, and only put out K-pop songs to appease a part of their fan base that still likes seeing them as K-pop idols. Last but not least, is that idols have an expiry date. An expiry date that was originally set up by the K-pop industry, but is now unintentionally being pushed by K-pop fans and the K-pop community as a whole. Before, it was kind of an unspoken thing that when an idol reaches a certain age the company no longer sees them as marketable, especially female idols. Or when a trainee has reached a certain age, be it their early 20s before they make their debut, a company would let them go. Because to them, they have reached their prime before it has even begun. Though this is still going on, it has now become subtle, and people, unfortunately, don't really pay much attention to it. However, I say it is still being pushed by K-pop fans, but in a different way. Because rather than us seeing an idol's age as a way of determining if they are marketable, we, however, use their age, and most importantly the generation in which the idol or their group debuted in, to determine how old they are and how long-lasting they will be. If you think about it, why is it we label and group certain idols and certain K-pop groups into a generation? Like, actually sit back and ask yourselves this. Isn't it because we want to be able to easily identify which idols and which idol groups are old and which ones are new? I mean, you can pretty much tell how old an idol is based on the generation they themselves, or their group debuted in. And you don't even have to know the specific year, just the generation. Although, I will say that there are special cases where some idols debut pretty young despite their groups being pretty old. Like an example being SHINee. Everyone knows SHINee as a second-generation group that debuted in 2008, with Taemin debuting at the age of 14. But I can guarantee that if you ask any fourth-generation K-pop fan how old the members of SHINee are, they will probably think that they are in their early to mid-30s. Not realizing that the members of SHINee and EXO are actually the same age despite debuting in two different generations. I mean, to put it into another perspective, SHINee's Taemin is only 2 years older than Seventeen's Hongline, and only 4 years older than Stray Kids' Bang Chan. And I say all of this because we don't see this with Western fans of Western artists, where they identify themselves or their artist using generation. I mean, you don't hear a fan refer to Nicki Minaj as a second-gen artist, or Lil Nas X as being the leader of the fourth generation of hip-hop and pop artists. I have always wondered to myself, and asked, would I still be a K-pop fan after the third generation is over, or after 17 finally disbands and goes their separate ways? I am 23 years old, and I have been a K-pop fan since 2012, so a fan since the literal start of the third generation. But despite me being a fan of a lot of second-generation K-pop idols and groups as well, I always found myself more of a fan and felt more connected to third-generation groups for the simple fact that, a lot of the third-generation groups are closer to my age range, and thus feel more relatable to me. Like, I genuinely can't see myself being a fan of newer K-pop groups because they all just seem too young. And I like to think it is the same for younger K-pop fans. That they can't see themselves being fans of any K-pop group beyond third-generation K-pop groups, and even a good chunk of the third-generation K-pop groups, for the simple fact that they are older in age or in career. Like, you can like a song from a third-generation group, but are you truly a fan of a third-generation group? This is a genuine question for fourth-generation fans, and I use fourth generation lightly, as I have stated previously that I don't believe we have reached that generation just yet. Anyways, in short, I feel like the generational system thing we use in K-pop is a way for K-pop fans and even the K-pop industry to establish and identify which K-pop groups are old, not just in age, but in experience as well. Not to mention, it is used as a way to figure out whether an idol or a K-pop group have reached their peak because for some reason there is an expiry date on that too. Anyway, this brings me to the end of the video. Please, don't forget to like and subscribe for more content and opinions like this one. And don't be afraid to share your opinions down in the comments section below either. Anyways, this has been Lovely Muse, see you next time.